Hi, everybody. Welcome to Community's first workshop of the 2022 Hack-Q-Thon. We are very excited to have Enrique Solano here with us today to talk about quantum arts and the quantum metaverse. So I will pass it over to him to introduce himself and then go ahead with his fantastic talk that he has prepared for today.
Thanks, Anisha. So essentially, I have prepared some cool slides and some fancy arguments concerning quantum arts and quantum metaverse. As I promised, I expect to enjoy it. But anyway, the idea is that you can raise plenty of conjecture ideas and that you yourself can develop some cool projects. But I'm always ready also to hear you. Questions and proposals during the event, or also you can contact me and the email. Yeah, so that it's much nicer if you ask questions, then I can guide myself also through my talk. Essentially, quantum arts, as you will see, is something that I invented. And when I say I invented, I have to say immediately I co-invented and I post-invented and I pre-invented, because creativity is a weird thing in history. And many times we think we are pioneering something, and there is always somebody that predated the developments and the projects and the interdisciplinary approach. Okay, so essentially, the things I will be telling you are coming from my work in the last years, through my career, and also through the ideas of many others that I will be mentioning along my talk. My background is essentially as a researcher and professor in quantum physics, quantum simulation, quantum computing. And in the last few years, I have started an entrepreneurial career. And this allows me to see also both sides and the multiple interests in this topic. So I will start just by saying a few words about the relation between art and science. As you can see in this picture, which I like a lot, you see kind of a totally destroyed environment with a kind of old version of what we call nowadays classical computer. Many people think that quantum computers may be able to overcome the computational capacities of these devices. But this photograph is somehow showing how, even though we are trying to describe some technology, some outdated technology, if you want, and how quantum computers may overtake these capabilities. You know, it's a black and white photograph, and there is a distribution of images, and art and science have been always together. And I have been traveling recently through the heart and the core city of the Renaissance in Italy, in Florence. And I have made plenty of reflections again between art and science. And I just wanted to share a permanent view that I have in this respect that sometimes we overlook. And it's a strong relation between technique, technology, instruments, artificiality, and creativity and aesthetics. Most of the time we try to attribute, for example, beauty to a landscape and to natural objects. And I always insist, something that is quite trivial for me, but and perhaps for many experts, but not for the general audience, is the fact that there may be beauty in a landscape, but it is no art. For art to exist, you need an artist, and then you need a design and an aesthetic expression. And that's why art is not by chance related to the word artificiality, and it is crucial for the development of instruments, tools, devices, the possibility of combining the techniques and the technology with the creativity for creating art. So from that point of view, art and science are strongly related from the very beginning, and that's something that is more than a cliche comment. Then the next slide, of course, is related to quantum physics, because of the idea how to combine the quantum physics and the quantum phenomena with something that can be an aesthetic expression. And quantum physics, while art started possibly with the origin of intelligence, artificiality also started with the origin of intelligence. Quantum physics was kind of discovered or unveiled at the beginning of the 20th century. And since then, we are using these principles that just challenge our common intuition. And then here again, even though everybody has heard the story that a particle can be in two places at the same time, where in fact a particle can be, and usually is, in infinite places at the same time, not only in two. It's very hard to have a particle in two places. Essentially, it's a wave function, it's a continuous function with a probability amplitude. And we can have entanglement, and we can have teleportation, and we can have quantum algorithms and quantum computers. Quantum physics is just not very intuitive for all of us because we don't have such an experience in our everyday lives. And even though we call intuitive the conventional laws of physics, more related to mechanics, to electricity, to thermodynamics, as we experience them, I can bet that if we start challenging them, you will see that the things that we call intuitive are just familiar. It's just by repetition that we develop intuition. It's not because we have deep comprehension of things. In fact, it is exactly the opposite. Many times we misunderstand deeply classical physics, but it is because we just experience them every day that we are able to call them intuitive or something that sounds more normal, let's say, right? So quantum physics, for experts, I consider myself one of them, is quite intuitive. And the more you see it and the more you work with it, it becomes quite natural, and in fact necessary for the stability of matter in nature and in the universe, and for describing most of what we observe around and we are proud of. Okay. Then quantum computing comes as an amazing possibility of raising the possibility of computing with zeros and ones, like in any microchip and microelectronics and electronic device nowadays, and to the possibility of using this coexistence of many quantum states and zeros and ones at the same time with different probability amplitudes, in a way that when combining many of them, we create the concept of entanglement and multipartite entanglement and quantum algorithms through quantum gates. And then we are also working on that at all levels, scientifically, technologically, even to make business with it. Because we are discovering the possibilities of quantum computers based on qubits as means of encoding quantum information that allows us to compute, and will allows us in the future to compute things that are impossible to imagine nowadays, like, for example, designing and predicting properties of specific molecules for medical drugs, or modeling, for example, some financial models, or solving some logistics problems, attacking machine learning or artificial intelligence, and many others, and many problems, of course, in optimization. Then just to go directly to the issue, to the topic, right, and how to combine these quantum computers with these typical historic links between arts and science, and I insist, when I think in art and science, I mean literally artificiality and intelligence. So think it carefully. There is nothing that you can call intelligent in the Darwinian sense of evolution. Nothing that we may call intelligent that is not based on the conception, experience, and design and use of artificial tools. So when we question artificiality, we are questioning the essence of intelligence. There is nothing that can be called intelligent that is not related to artificiality. And there is the heart and the connection, in my opinion, between art and science, and why this is so deep and important. So my classification of quantum arts that are in this slide are very fresh, comes from last year, where I wanted just to express how to frame it. And everybody has heard, of course, that there was a painter or a composer or a musicist or a sculptor that created an artwork based on quantum physics inspiration. And without any pejorative sense, when I mean pejorative, I mean not meaning that one class of quantum art is higher or deeper than the other, just they are different in technical terms. I made this classification that I want to share with you today so that you can also reflect on it. I claim that everything that had been composed in arts, in all kinds of arts, related to something that we can call quantum physics until the last perhaps 2 years, can be classified as quantum inspired art. And for me, quantum inspired art is all those great melodies, paintings, writings, poems that have been developed in the last more than 100 years, where people just heard about or understood deeply quantum physics and use this comprehension or this understanding or this influence as a way of composing an artwork. But most of those artworks, not to say all of them until 2 years ago, possibly, they are just conventional art. That means the poetry was not different, the music was not different, the paintings were not different, were just inspired in quantum physics. In the class of that I call quantum simulated art, that's the novelty, because in the recent years we have been able to use classical computers. You can take your laptop and use your classical computer to simulate or to imitate the behavior of a quantum computer. And when you use a classical simulator of a quantum computer or quantum phenomena to use this data to compose art, then I call it quantum simulated art. Then the third category is called quantum sourced art. And in this case, I claim that for belonging to this category, the data has to come from a true quantum computer. That means a device where there are qubits and there are quantum phenomena that can be verified and that are confirmed. So from quantum inspired art, we jump to quantum simulated, where you use classical computers, to quantum source, where the real quantum computers are producing the data, but they don't have to produce it in real time. You know, you can take data from a quantum computer of last month and just use this data to compose your generative artwork, your digital work, your digital music, and so on. But it is quantum sourced. The fourth category, I call it quantum interactive art, where for belonging to this category, it is crucial that the composition is happening in real time. This means that you are interacting or taking the data in real time from a quantum computer or via the quantum phenomena, and this is quite hard. So the first three categories have been already worked out. There are several works. Of course, most of them is quantum inspired, less is quantum simulated, and exceptionally things are quantum sourced. And the quantum interactive art is still absent from, at least from the public. I know that there are some efforts, some people have done some things in this sense, and you will see it very soon. We are also working in my company, Quantum in Germany, on that. And this requires a high level of technology to control the data coming from the quantum computer in real time, typically using cloud-based quantum computers. And if you're lucky and you have one small quantum computer at home, then you could also do that. And the last category, which is going to be the most advanced ones in terms of technique, not in terms of aesthetics necessarily, is the one that I call quantum feedback art, where it is crucial that even though the data is coming in real time from a quantum computer to your composition, the emotions and the feelings and the reactions and the thoughts that you have from this experience in real time of quantum interactive art, now you process it and your brain creates signals that are taken, for example, with a brain machine interface and are fed back to the quantum computer. So somehow you are creating a quantum feedback loop between the generative artwork through a quantum computer in real time, creating aesthetics, coming to your emotions, and your emotions are fed back through brain-computer interfaces. As you know, there are many companies in US, in Europe, and worldwide that are using these devices to interpret the messages of the brain, sometimes in a non-interactive manner, most of them, right, just like headsets, but there are also a few companies and few researchers that are allowed to use invasive chips that are almost touching the brain below the skull to access that information. For what I call quantum feedback art, it's enough the electrical signals that are at the surface that can be used with even a commercial headset of a quantum machine interface that you can buy in Amazon if you wanted. Okay, so just that you have an idea, this was composed by this team that is called InsideBart. The name comes from the H-bar, who collected 404 minted as an NFT and created using a concept that is called the quantum phase representation of electromagnetic modes. It sounds very, very technical, but these people use these methods that are rooted in what is called quantum optics, and were able to create this amazing 404 quantum collapses, where even though it was mostly quantum simulated art, they were able to create a lot of beautiful or artistic pieces based, as I said, on a technique that sounds very weird, but it is a standard in quantum optics that is called phase-space representation, created faces, animals, ghosts, and images, or just motifs of colors and forms that appeal to the human beings, right? And then as you see in real time, you can also process, and these transformations in the figure comes really from modifications of the wave function. In my company, at the end of last year, we created our first quantum NFT artwork that we call it Kipu Quantum Creator number 0. And as you see, this is a combination again of these Figner functions with these phase-space representations, trying to mimic the face of a bird, of a seal, or of a panda, as you prefer, and we sold it in Pi Ethereum. And I chose the value of pi because it is just 3,1416, right, for the irrational number pi, just because it was an irrational number and it was fancy, but it was very interesting. And you see that there is a video of the panda evolving in time, coming from wave functions. And part of this quantum NFT artwork was composed by quantum simulated art techniques and some by quantum sourced, coming from a real quantum computer. And yeah, it was bought by one of the top 10 NFT artist, Hack-Q-Thon, who was very proud to buy our first quantum NFT artwork, as you can see. Then there is another group called Fine Rats, that you can find all of them in Twitter, who claims that there is missing aesthetics in all these efforts of quantum arts, and they are creating this quantum pontyism. As you see, this is an amazing piece. In this case, it is used with quantum simulated art, and they are also sometimes using some quantum source data for creating a new kind of aesthetic expression for that. And then just to finish, to let you ask questions. I wanted just to briefly reflect with you on these questions that I will briefly describe. What is a quantum NFT artwork? If you go to blockchain, nowadays there are a few, but there are quantum artists that are using quantum inspired, quantum simulated, quantum sourced, and very soon we are working on a quantum interactive art where we will have quantum computers in real time connected to the blockchain. And the idea is to be able to create a certain aesthetics based on quantum physics, on quantum computers, and to be able to create digital images and to create a quantum NFT artwork. And there are many, many questions that are very interesting. For example, I challenge you to think about the possibility, what would be a decentralized property of a wave function? You know, a wave function is something that is not fixed, that each time you observe it, it collapses. So is there a possibility to develop even a legal frame where you can have a wave function associated to a quantum NFT? Then can we produce quantum generative art? In that sense, we would like to be able to mint, for example, in a way that you can have a quantum computer or quantum server always online, such that when the user or the collector access and wants to mint their quantum NFT artwork, there is a quantum computer in real time that is processing and creating the data for a quantum interactive artwork. So from that point of view, this quantum generative art is not possible nowadays in the existing platforms or marketplaces, but we are working on that to make them happen. Then what about extending these ideas of quantum arts to quantum poetry or to quantum theater? I have developed some basics of what could be quantum theater in terms of performance and on stage, where you can link characters or videos with quantum computers, be via quantum source data or quantum interactive or even quantum feedback, and also quantum poetry are concepts that are needed some additional development to be able to associate the creation of the aesthetics in the wording of the poem, and at the same time getting not a flavor but a direct execution or performance of a quantum computer or quantum properties related to them. About quantum science fiction, check Twitter and LinkedIn. The Indian quantum ecosystem is organizing an event in next week, yes, I think it's next week, related to the possibility, what would we call quantum science fiction? Not science fiction where you see quantum computers only. This is, for me, would be a quantum simulated science fiction. But what about creating science fiction where the quantum computers are there creating the artificial piece? And that's something that is totally open for discussion, for creativity related to movies, to videos, to video clips, to music, and so on. Are there ethical issues to consider? Yes and no. There is an open debate. Some people think that the arrival of quantum computers may bring possibilities of creating damage or creating harm, and that we should consider them and control them. Some people, very talented, also think that there is nothing new, that is the same concerns about AI are enough with small modifications. This is an interesting issue. If you ask my opinion, I am mostly worried, even though I think that science and technology are apolitical and amoral, if you want, because what is moral is the use the humans want to give to the technology. And in this case, for me, what worries me that even if we develop, for example, quantum interactive art or quantum feedback art, we may find methods and techniques to help people with some problems in the brain or in the behaviors, but you always have the risk, like any melody or like any mysterious sound, to induce something good for human beings or something bad. And that's a constant issue. I don't think it belongs to quantum arts or to quantum computers. This is just a constant monitoring of the society to the new technologies. And what about the business side? I claim also, just with this, I would like to finish, that there is a very important possibility to develop businesses, not only because I think that quantum art is an interesting business that people will be ready to pay for, but because what is called Web3, blockchain, augmented reality, virtual reality, Internet of Things, and quantum computing, I put them all together in this novel concept that I created that I call quantum metaverse, right? Where I added the quantum because I don't understand why it is not present, because a few qubits are already available, and they should be part of this new trend. And how to use that for the sake of creating new aesthetic expression and an impression on the listeners, on the observers, be in music, be in an app, in a mobile phone, or be in computers, or be for medicine, or be for education, are absolutely open for study and for exploiting the possibilities that this merge between quantum computers, artificial intelligence, and arts can bring, and of course with some neurotech also, because of these brain-computer interfaces, as I mentioned. So that's more or less what I wanted to share with you. That there is, you know, when we work, the few people that are working on that in the last months and few years, we are very conscious of the challenges that we have in front. We feel very much as excited as if we were revisiting the moments in which new tendencies in art appear, like if we were reinventing or inventing sculpture with 3D printers, or painting with digital art, or ownership with the blockchain, and adding these fancy components of quantum physics and quantum computers, not only for the sake of weirdness, but essentially as a new tool, as I said, as a new artificial tool that allows intelligence to create aesthetic expression. First of all, for showing what we have inside in our inner demons, but exposing them to the others, right? Like it is the essence of the pure art. It's a means of expression that may be appreciated or not by others. And now we have added the Q, not of the Hack-Q-Thon, but more or less also. And I would be very glad that the quantum arts also influences your mindset, and you can project your creativity. So that's all on my side. I don't know if there is time for a couple of questions, or we postpone them for internal list.
Yeah, there definitely is time to take a few questions if anyone has any. And also, if you would like to leave a way for people to get in touch with you afterward.
Sure, please. If you have I have a public email. I can write it here. This I cannot hide because it is written in many places. And I have other more professional and commercial emails. But to this one, if you have a curiosity or a project to propose or a reflection, I would be glad to.
Yeah, so he put his email in the chat if you guys want to use that. And then if anybody has a question now, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can even unmute and ask that way. Oh, somebody put a question in the chat.
Christian, Edwin, Susa Quintero. Okay, wonderful. To think. Good point. Good point. Both things. You know, that's exactly what I'm just trying to. I mean, the question is, from Christian is whether we are just composing music as usual with quantum devices or we are creating new music. It's both. If you just use quantum devices or let's say to get an inspiration and then you compose music like usual, right? I would call it quantum inspired, a little bit of quantum simulated if you want, even quantum sourced. But to create new music is what is still open. And what I mean is that do you find it normal or old style music, the fact that you are getting a melody to your senses and your senses are giving the feedback of your emotions to the quantum computer, and this feedback is collapsing the wave functions that are creating the next seconds of the music? That would be unique. No? So these kind of experiences, not only because it should be novel in terms of the music experience, but think it carefully, it could be a unique experience, no? where the melody that you will be hearing cannot be repeated even by yourself. You run the same algorithm and you are the same person, and then you run it 10 minutes later, and it will be different because quantum physics allows for this random collapse of the wave functions, giving us an inner chaotic or random behavior that is unique. So we are still exploring. I still claim that we have not been able to grasp the novelty of the quantum aspects, but yes, both things, you know, to use quantum devices to compose music in a way that uses randomness, superposition, entanglement, teleportation, and so on. But also we will be very glad that in the next year, somebody hears a melody and say, wow, that music comes from a quantum computer. That's all open. That's all open. I'm opening here the floor. Oh, quantum aviation. What do you mean that? I have no idea. You mean that I mean, I hope that the airplane is going in two directions at the same time. I don't know whether the airplane should be on Earth and in the sky, but yes, that's more or less the challenge. When I mean, so I'm not happy. I have not been happy in the last years when I have seen that most of the interdisciplinary approaches to quantum are mostly in the imagination. The idea of my classification of quantum arts that I can share with Anisha later, a PDF with this, you know, is to really make the difference between, oh, I heard about quantum physics and I have an idea for aviation or for a painting. No, the idea is really to have involved the quantum computers and the quantum phenomena directly with the expression, with the artistic expression, and that's the real challenge. No? And it is like if I tell you, if you play a guitar or you play a piano, can you make a difference? And do you perceive the limitations and the advantages of each instrument? You will say, obviously, yes. You know, and if it is classical guitar or it is an electrical guitar. Okay, so what I'm telling you is that I would like to create things that when I use qubits from a quantum computer, people say, yes, that's different from a guitar, it's different from a synthesizer, it's different from an electrical piano. That's more or less the goal.
Okay, yeah. If there are any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat now, or again, Enrique put his email in the chat, so you could always just send them there. Yeah, thank you so much, Enrique, for joining us today. We really appreciate you, and this talk was awesome. It will be available on our YouTube channel shortly for people who missed it to watch. Also, in news for the people attending the hackathon, we are doing a giveaway to everybody who posts a picture of them and their team hacking. If you post a picture in the events channel on Discord, you have a chance to win some additional prizes. So yeah, pop over into the events channel and post a picture of you and your team doing a hack. Yeah, and thank you, Enrique, for joining us. Very excited.
Thanks to you all, and I hope to see your quantum art very soon. Huh? Take care.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh. There is actually one last